Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I, 17 female, am a waitress slash server slash cashier at a semi-local Italian chain. Not going to say which, but it's considered the specialty of the DMV area. I recently had to take a month off of work for health reasons, since I was in the emergency room, and then had to spend time in as an inpatient. While I was away, there were huge changes at my job, including new managers and 2 new employees. I've only been working there since last June, but I picked things up pretty quickly. Barring the first day, I had to deal with a back dining room by myself while still in training. I'd messed up pretty badly with a computer system and needed the manager's help. Still, it happens. Yesterday, I met the new girl for the first time. It was her 3rd day, still in training, and she's my age and a complete sweetheart. And as the dining room slowly became more and more packed, we made a great team. She got to practice working with the computers and talking to customers while I took down the orders and showed her how everything works. It was her first time properly serving there, and she really did great considering that, certainly at first. The other 2 people who were working were a manager and 1 other hourly employee. The managers at my job will also serve and work the counters. Basically, all the waitresses have to do double the work and we still get paid dirt, but that's another story. I was running between the dining room and the counters to try to keep up. Although we can only serve max 2 people at the counters picking up or placing orders at a time. It was to the point where my manager and her friend had bundled up and complained about how cold it was. While I was flushed with my coat off, covered in sweat, cleaned myself up when dealing with the food, of course. The manager and her friend were sitting down together, alternating between scrolling on their phones and talking, only getting up to answer the phones when they had already rung like 5+ times and having people wait at the counters to be helped for 10+ minutes. It was massively irritating, but I didn't have the time/energy to confront them. Well, about halfway through my shift, my manager told me that I can just go in between the dining room and the counter, and if I didn't pick one or the other, she'd withhold my tips for both, since I wasn't fully invested in either. Ouch. She gave me a choice on paper, but in reality, made it perfectly clear that I was stuck behind the counter and the new girl, the trainee, was on her own. There was nothing I could really do, so I just stayed at the counter. Though that was plenty slammed in and of itself, and I really could have used my 2 co-workers who were screwing around on their phones. I didn't have the time to answer phone calls, pack up orders, check people out, and take to-go orders all at once. And I had one particularly angry woman call me a lazy witch for leaving her on hold for about 2 minutes. That stuck with me. While I was doing all this, a new girl was stuck with a packed dining room and no help. About 20 minutes into it, my manager approaches me looking both angry and sheepish. Basically, the trainee had messed up and charged the wrong orders to the wrong cards and needed help. Though the way she phrased this was, "You know, you don't have to stay by the counter the whole time. That's not what I meant." I looked over and could see her friend on her phone still, and the manager herself still had AirPods on and a show playing on her own phone screen. I responded in my sweetest, most respectful voice, "I'm sorry, but as we only get paid $10 an hour, my tips are too vital for me to forfeit them. So I'm going to stay put." Context: minimum wage is $15.65 where I live. She was floored, and instead helping either of us herself, waddled back to her seat and resumed her show. Of course, I ended up checking in with a trainee and asked if she needed my help, and if the mistake was sorted out. She said that she had things back under control and a lot of people dining in were headed out, which was great, but the counter was still slammed. The kicker? This morning, apparently a customer called in and complained that the blonde girl, me, and the girl with braids, the trainee, were so busy that they were sweating, while the other 2 women, the manager and her buddy, were sitting on their phones. I only wish I saw her face when she heard about the complaints. Edit 1. I really wasn't expecting this to blow up. Wow, it breaks my heart that a lot of people can relate. I'll update after my shift tonight. For clarity, I'm 17, my manager is middle-aged, and I have other applications out, but have yet to hear back. And I'm definitely planning on reporting to the state. I guess they cut corners after all, if you know, you know, and ended up firing that awful manager. A year in the making, but oh so beautiful. I love crows. They are my favorite animal, and just so cool and emotive. They are awesome. I started feeding the local couple that were nesting near me, and come winter the entire flock was coming by every day. I talked with my neighbors, found an agreeable time, and tossed out a few bags of weed that thanks for being chill. Everything seemed like it was fine except my one neighbor. Let's call him Chad for short. Keeps making little comments once in a while. About 4 months in, my landlord comes into my workplace. I rent an apartment above my shop and yells at me that the crow feeder is attracting rodents. Apparently, the mice in our building are climbing trees and then jumping a 2-meter gap onto our building, climbing to the crow feeder and eating the food in it. This seems unlikely to me. The feeder is only up for 2 hours a day and I've never seen mice parkour. It comes out that Chad complained, and fibbed quite a bit in his complaint. Detail after detail keeps slipping. There is a mouse problem in the building, I've never seen one or signs of any. But then again, I've lived on farms and still store my food off the ground. Keep a tidy floor and so on. The restaurant next door is complaining about the place smelling like pot, and Chad pointed him at me. Landlord is absolutely convinced it's acrobatic mice making the leap to the balcony. I mentioned to the landlord that my shop was smelling like pot for the years that I was in it before renting the apartment upstairs, and that I always go outside for a puff. Also that I've lived on farms and in plenty of buildings and never seen a mouse or rat decide to ignore ground floor entrances in favor of a leap of faith. We go back and forth for a bit and I agree to stop feeding the crows and tell him that without some kind of proof, he can kick stones over anything else. I add that he's never to come into my workplace without specific and declared need again, that I will be saving the recording of our interaction, and that he has on no uncertain terms crossed the line by coming into my workplace and raising his voice. After work, I check my suite and shop, no gaps, no holes, no droppings, no signs of mice at all. Knock on Chad's door, see what's up. He invites me in to talk. First time I've been in his suite. And suddenly everything makes sense. He has a few birds of his own, has an ashtray filled with roaches, tips of joints, not insects, and the floor is littered with bird seed. Obviously, Chad doesn't want the landlord to know he has pets, that he plays inside, and that he's the probable cause of the rodents. I give zero cares what he has to say. He had the opportunity to talk to me person to person, to find recourse that wasn't putting the target on me, or just anything. I am done. So I look up the bylaws for feeding birds and for peace and tranquility. I called my local council to make sure I wasn't ruffling feathers, and got the go-ahead. Every morning I was going out at 10 a.m. and feeding my crows about 10 meters from my front door. Now just a nesting couple again, and there are no complaints. Come October, the entire flock is coming again, and I'm having to up the food amount. Within weeks, the local seagulls are coming by too. I could jury-rig another feeder to keep them away, but instead I just up the feed amount to accommodate more birds. Every morning is met with a chorus of bird song, crow, and seagull bird song. I personally love it. Chad confronts me first. I respond by being sympathetic and say, "Oh, I know, it was way better before someone got the landlord involved. We could agree on a time, be considerate of each other and all. Now they gotta be fed and done before 9 a.m. and it has to be after 8 a.m. for peace and tranquility laws." Oh well. The landlord tries next. I texted back that I was feeding them on city property and ignored him until he came into my shop again, yelling again. I recorded the entirety of his rant and asked him if he knew where I was feeding the birds. He did. And then I asked him where the property he was responsible for ended. He left and I forwarded the complaint to the property manager company. Next come my other neighbors and they get the same treatment. Yeah, it sucks. I miss feeding them at 11 too. But Jack got the landlord involved and now I have to do it on city property. And that means my only window is between 8 and 9. Sucks, man. Oh well. No one's tried to ask me to not feed them. I think they have realized that the crows mean more to me than most things. Also, the crows still chill on the balcony waiting for me in the morning. And I swear I have started imitating my good morning buds effing cadence alone. So I make a living doing landscape maintenance, mostly for commercial properties and wealthy homeowners. Unsurprisingly, the wealthy homeowners tend to be the most difficult customers. I could probably write a book with the amount of ridiculous requests I received. I added a new customer, Karen, the real name actually, to my weekly routes recently. And the first visit to her home was yesterday. Using Google Maps, I picked the property for 1 hour of work. When I showed up, the place was a mess. It hadn't been serviced in months, and I spent 2 hours making this place look about as perfect as it could. I cleaned up 2 half-dead palm trees, trimmed all the bushes, mowed, edged, string trimmed, and cleaned up all the leaves I was able to. An hour later, Karen calls my company, me, to complain about the work done. Apparently, they blew leaves into the corner of her property and left them. Well, that's complete nonsense, but okay. I will entertain the nonsense. The leaves in question were already in the back corner of the property, embedded in the pine straw, as they have been there for quite a while. Standard practice is pulling out any loose leaves from garden beds and mulching or bagging them, which has been done. Karen didn't really want to hear the reason when I tried to explain this and insisted I send someone out to get the remaining leaves. I went back and got every leaf off of her property, including over 75% of the pine straw. Of course, she called again to complain about her missing pine straw, at which point I reiterated the same thing I told her before, and I let her know that I will be happy to replace the pine straw for $400. I haven't heard back yet. My usually not irresponsible teenager lost his phone and just realized it while competing in a district track meet he was invited to. This fueled my urgency to find his phone more than its value or anything else. I had my daughter use her Find My Phone app to see it at a local convenience store. I refreshed the search to see it was hovering around the space of the store and the parking lot, almost back and forth between 2 locations. I tell my daughter that I'm taking her phone with me to the store to retrieve it in between my son's events, 100-meter discus and shot put. I arrive through the doors Ayla Kramer from Seinfeld, phone up and in hand like I'm on a timed scavenger hunt. The clerk gets suddenly shifty, looking at me, then looking away, then looking at his customer. Understandable was how I entered. I jumped in line, patiently waiting for the customer in front of me to interview the clerk about the state lottery system. A barrage of ridiculous questions that even I couldn't write up. Finally, it's my turn, and now I'm the only customer in here. I also noticed that upon refreshing the app I was using, it hasn't moved since I entered the store. I begin with what would be a line of my own questions. Hey, my son lost his iPhone and this app says it's near here. Has anyone turned in a phone? The lying clerk says, nope. I retort, could you look around and see? Because I've refreshed this over the past 20 minutes and it's here. Liar McLiarstein continues his poorly spun web of lies. I don't know anything about it, man, so quit bothering me. You lost your phone, get over it. Dude, it's here. Where is my phone? If you want to make it a whole thing, go ahead and call the cops. See what they do. Oh, let's do that. Now I know that I can ping the phone to make noise. But I don't know if he's got it in his car, in the back room, locked up, or somewhere I can go without getting arrested. Like behind this counter, for example. I call the cops and explain the situation as well as my suspicions. The police ask what app I used, if it's active, if I have any more evidence that it's in his possession. I explained that I didn't want to ping it yet until they could help, and they agreed to send the car out. I waited outside at the next door Dutch Bros out of his line of sight. Hoping he was convinced, I left. The police arrived and I flagged them to me, showing him the app. They also took my ID, which was weird, but whatever. We ended up entering the store together as I ping the phone. Bingo! It's in his office. He answers questions as he gets handcuffs. I get the phone back to the track meet in time to just miss him getting second in discus. I'm not very good at being malicious. I've never had a story I thought would fit enjoyably. That is until I remembered Christmas many years ago. I've always enjoyed holidays, with Christmas being my favorite. And my favorite thing about Christmas was trying to find the right gift for people. I would spend hours upon hours going from store to store trying to find that perfect present. I come from a large family, 8 kids, and in order to not break the bank each year, we rotated which sibling and their families. As we got older, we gifted presents too. This particular year, it was my turn to gift my sister, her husband, and their toddler daughter. I asked them what they would like for Christmas to get some ideas. My sister answered with no clue, and her hubby told me everything. I asked them several times and always got the same response. I asked my mom for their Christmas wish list and they didn't have one. So my hubby and I went shopping. I don't remember what we got for the toddler. Some toy or clothes or both. For my sister, we got her the game Clue and made a nice no label to put in front of the title. Then for her hubby, we got him a card that said, "Sorry, we couldn't get you everything, but here is a little something to get you started." He opened the package to find one of those toy shopping carts. We got them what they asked for. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.